Hey guys, Pete here. This is going to be my Game of Thrones Season 7, Episode 5 Top Moments Recap. Quick look at all the biggest moments in this episode, and there were quite a few, especially for a transitional episode, I would say. If you haven't watched Episode 5 yet, then there will be spoilers in this, so this is your warning. So first of all, we found out what happened with Jaime and how he lived. Bronn helped him out of the water, and we found out that he won't be a captive, and he won't see Tyrion. He'll just wander off away from the battle because they ended up downstream. We got the bend the knee speech that we saw in the trailer from Daenerys to the captured soldiers, and it was a lot more reasonable than the trailer made it out to be. We found out that she not only said bend the knee or die, but she made a point that she wants to break the wheel, making the world a better place, that she knows that Cersei's told them that she wants to come and burn them alive and all that kind of stuff, but that's really Cersei, that's not her. A lot of them decide to kneel right away, but Randall and Dickon, Tarly both are still standing. She pulls Randall up, gives him a chance. He calls her a foreign invader and says she has an army of savages and pretty much casts his lot in that fashion, the way he lived, you could say. And Dickon decides that he's going to go along for the ride as well, and that's just how it goes. She has Drogon burn them to death. The rest of their men kneel, and that is that. No more Dickon and Randall. Jaime returns and tells Cersei the bad news about how many people that they lost. He also tells her about Lyanna being the one who killed Joffrey, not Tyrion. She kind of dogs him a little bit, but not much else happens right here. Back at Dragonstone, we see the dragon land, and Jon just straight up touches it. It's one of those scenes, like, it was cool, but, why did he do that? So yeah, it was awesome, you know what I mean? We kind of all thought that this might happen, but it just seemed really weird how it went down. Anyways, of course Daenerys likes that. She might be thinking, hey, he likes kids even. But, whatever. He touches the dragon doesn't mind it one bit. Before they can talk too much, though, Jorah shows up. He's back. She asks him if he's cured. He said, of course he is, or else he wouldn't have returned. He gets a little hug there, and Jon might look a little bit salty here on the side. I'm not sure, but it almost looks like he's like, oh wait, who's this guy? So we see Bran skin changing the ravens, and it's a really cool scene as he goes out above, across Eastwatch, over the wall. And we see that the Night King and his army are right there. He comes out of it and tells Maester Wolkan they need to send ravens. This leads over to the Citadel, where Sam overhears them talking about the raven from Wolkan, and it's a pretty good scene all the way around. I mean, it's kind of convenient that he just happened to be there when they were talking about it, but he throws his 2 cents in. They don't really listen. You wouldn't expect that they would, and they almost justify it in a way, you know what I mean? Like when they sort of bring up some other examples in history where people said this was going to happen or that was going to happen. And it does sound pretty absurd when you think about it, that a crippled kid in the north saw a vision through a raven of the Night King marching. You kind of see them with air quotes say the Night King kind of thing, but they don't necessarily believe him, but they are going to inquire again with the Maester up at Winterfell just in case. We do see Tyrion and Varys have their conversation. They are talking about Daenerys. Varys is imploring him to get her to listen. They point out that she's not her father, but there's kind of a yet attached to that, like she's not her father yet. So they have some concern. We also see that the Raven has arrived with Bran's message. They all meet up in the map room, which we saw in the trailer. Jon explains what's going on up there, and Tyrion is the one who comes up with the idea of bringing a white back from the north to convince Cersei that this is a real thing that's going on. Jorah immediately volunteers to go and bring a white back, and Jon says that he has to go because he's the one who knows what's going on. He's fought with the whites and the White Walkers. Daenerys looks a little bit defensive here, or I guess possessive would be the right word. She says, I have not given you permission to leave yet. And that's the first tension that we see there about the whole situation. But in the end, the plan is made. Davos throws in that he can smuggle Tyrion into King's Landing to talk to Jaime. And that sets everything in motion for the trip to Eastwatch. At Winterfell, we can see that the Northern Lords and Jon Royce are losing faith in Jon being gone. They're hinting that Sansa might be a better choice. Arya walks in during this and is kind of just watching to see what'll happen. When Sansa says that Jon is the king in the north and she's behind him, that seems to perk Arya up. But then they have a conversation where she thinks that she should be a little bit more firm in supporting Jon. After that, Tyrion and Davos land on King's Landing. Jaime's led downstairs by Bronn where they have a heartfelt meeting. They start to get into things a little bit, but Jaime cuts it off. So he tells them that Dany has a request, basically an armistice, and they want to bring the White down to show them what's really going on up north. Of course, whether this is something that they're interested in or not, an armistice is a good thing for them since they have real fear that the dragons are going to come to King's Landing and burn everything down. While Tyrion's doing that, Davos went to Flea Bottom and he runs into Gendry. That was a big reveal. He's been there the whole time. It was planned that way. And guess what? Gendry is ready to leave. He just drops everything and goes. Davos drops I thought you might still be rowing. And it's fan service, but it's still pretty awesome. We see the Warhammer. It's pretty tough looking. Down at the beach, they run into some gold cloaks, and we can see that Davos still has it as far as his smuggling ways go. He talks them out of looking too closely at anything that's going on, pays them off a little bit, and then Tyrion has the worst timing ever as he comes down to the beach at the very same moment. They realize that he's probably the dwarf that they had been looking for, that he's probably Tyrion Lannister, and this gives a perfect opportunity for Gendry to unleash the hammer in all its glory. Jaime goes and tells Cersei about the meeting with Tyrion. She says, "Do you think anything happens here without me knowing?" She asks if he's going to punish Bronn for what he did, and then we find out she's pregnant. There's some controversy over whether this is really happening or not. I think she probably is. Qyburn was there. He was asking if she wanted something. That would probably be moon tea, I would imagine. So this could have been her plan all along. Like I said, we saw her get with him right after the Sand Snakes thing. And if she's expecting that she's going to have to marry Euron to keep her end of the bargain up, then it would make sense that she would want to be with Jaime's child specifically, before all that went down. They embrace. We hear the saying, the lion does not concern himself with the thoughts of the sheep, which is cool, and everything seems to be okay at that time. Gendry tells Jon who he is right away as soon as they meet him after a long conversation with Davos saying not to do that. They have some serious bastard bonding, and it's pretty cool when you think about it. I mean, this is Robert Baratheon's bastard, and for all intents and purposes, Ned Stark's bastard. So it's cool to see those two, and there's a little bromance brewing, I would think. Jorah and Tyrion have their reunion, and Tyrion gives him a coin, the coin that the slavers gave him, and then we get the goodbye. And it was pretty heavy, I would say, and you could definitely tell Daenerys has some feelings brewing. You could see a little bit of something in Jon, but it's especially emphasized in Daenerys. Like, there's no question anymore. These two are going to be a couple. So we're over at the Citadel, and Sam and Gilly are there, and Sam's upset because the Archmaesters won't listen to them, and Gilly just casually reads that the septon had annulled the Rhaegar Targaryen marriage and performed a new wedding with Lyanna Stark. So this is like the hugest reveal of all time, basically. Not only was R+L = J true, which we got last season, but this is the fact that they were actually married, so Jon is Rhaegar's legitimate heir. Now, that does make his claim better than Daenerys's, but there's no reason to really go into that right at this moment. The big thing is that Sam isn't paying attention, and it basically goes unnoticed. Not to worry, though, he gave the book to baby Sam, so even though they leave a short time afterwards, the book is coming along with them. Before he decides to take off, though, he breaks bad, goes in, takes a bunch of books, and they cut out, leaving the Citadel behind. Arya is spying on Littlefinger, and she breaks into his room after seeing Maester Vulcan give him a scroll, and we find out that it's actually a setup, because he's waiting outside. Now, that scroll is the letter that Sansa wrote. Well, I should say the letter that Sansa sent. She didn't actually write it. Cersei basically wrote it, but it's telling Robb to bend the knee because, father's been killed for treason. It's that letter. So on some levels, this could piss Arya off, but I'm not sure it'll work 100% because Arya was there. Like, she sort of knows what the situation was, so it may not be as effective as Littlefinger thinks it is. But at the same time, you're watching Arya spy on him thinking that she's got something going on, but it's all a setup by him, so he hasn't lost his touch either. After that, they just arrive at Eastwatch. They're there. They meet Tormund. He asks how many men they brought. They say too few. He asks about Brienne, which is pretty funny. And we find out that the Hound is there with the Brotherhood, and they're locked up, so they're game to come along as well. It's kind of a cool scene when you think about it because there are a lot of different interests inside this little group here, but Jon correctly points out that they're all on the same side because they're alive. So, Beric and Thoros have their reasoning for want to go. The Hound's had his vision. Jon needs a white because he needs to show everyone down south what's really going on. Gendry's just there for the party. He's just happy to be out of King's Landing. And yeah, so, there's a lot of people that wouldn't get along otherwise, but they're all there to make up one of the most all-star kind of teams that I've ever seen, really. If you think about this, this is a pretty cool lineup by any way you want to look at it. I want these guys on my side for sure. And the whole thing ends up with them walking out of the gate, going out beyond the wall. And like I said, this is a cool looking squad. I did the trailer breakdown earlier, and we've seen a bunch of this stuff already from the Winter is Here trailer, so we know what to expect in the next episode, and it's going to be pretty epic. So yeah, the big things here are obviously Jon touched Drogon. And he didn't burn him, he didn't do anything. He was happy to be touched. So that's going to go a long way to connecting him with Daenerys. Even if there wasn't this romance that's budding, as far as believing him, I would think that would be a big thing. If your dragon doesn't mind him touching him, he's probably a trustable guy, right? Also, the reveal that Rhaegar and Lyanna were married. This has been speculated about pretty much forever. Was it a kidnapping and a rape, or did they run away together? Apparently, he was the crown prince, but apparently there may have been another reason that the annulment was okay. Perhaps his wife couldn't have any more children, and he was really obsessed with the prophecy and the dragon having 3 heads, so maybe that was his reasoning, was you have to let me marry someone else so I can have another rightful son or daughter. I guess it really wouldn't matter, but so he could have 3 children. But yeah, that's confirmed now. Sam has left the Citadel. He's headed north. We're going to guess that he's headed to Winterfell. That piece of paper will probably show up, but it's still kind of funny that Gilly just happened to read it in this really boring Septon's diary, where he kept track of everything, all this stuff no one would ever really want to read through. And it's I guess that's kind of the point they're making, is how it could have stayed hidden for so long. But yeah, so that's there, and everything's heading to the north. Obviously, some tensions are going to be building back at Winterfell. But yeah, I think it was a pretty good episode. Things are moving way too fast for my taste, but it wasn't unwatchable. It wasn't so bad that I could really complain about it. I just think that it could be longer, but whatever. We're finding a lot of stuff out. Things are moving towards this big battle next week, and then after that, we're going to find out how the rest of the kingdom responds when they realize that the White Walker threat is actually real. So please like this video. If you enjoyed it, please make sure you subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Make sure you let me know in the comments what you thought of this, what you're expecting to see coming up. Was it too fast? There's only 2 episodes left now, so at least they're longer ones, right? Please follow me on Twitter and my other social media accounts. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll talk to you soon.